Hello, welcome back to Fire Horizons Gaming. My name is Ben, and today we're going to continue on with Rizia. So, last time out, we signed a few more executive orders. We went on a date with the Duchess of Zaro. We finalized the Aureus pipeline transfer agreement thing, and went to a memorial service thing, basically just like visiting our father's grave with our mother. So yeah, let's see, so I went ahead and sold a little bit more energy because we got a lot of it, and then built this gold mine, or I guess started construction on a new gold mine. Because yeah, that -3 budget is not good, so we got to do something to bump it back up. So yeah, we got two newspapers here. So the first up's from the Royal Herald. New gold mine near Kalus, volunteers to benefit. The palace has announced that the king has authorized the construction of a new gold mine in Valankirs province to bolster local industry and increase the extraction of the valuable resource. Situated between Kalus and Fort Mono, the project reflects King Rums's dedication to stimulating economic growth in his home province. The expansion of gold mining operations raises intriguing questions about the untapped wealth hidden beneath the surface of the kingdom. In any case, this new mine will truly expand on the golden part of our golden kingdom. And resilience reigns. Former queen's surprise attendance elevates sovereign memorial commemoration. Rizia marked the annual Sovereign Memorial Commemoration with a solemn tribute to its late monarchs. The ceremony unfolded without issue, the notable moment being the presence of former Queen Estella Torres, who attended for the first time since the passing of her late husband, the king. Her participation reflects her strength and resilience, considering the deep bond they shared over the years. The commemoration honored the legacies of past rulers and highlighted the importance of unity and remembrance in the kingdom's history. Cool. Alright, I guess let's see, let's go back to here real quick. Construction. Yes, there, for the Kalus gold mine, we +2 budget per churn when it's done. Take about 3 churns. Alright, let's move on to the next churn here. The Art of War. Alright, that's not a very promising chapter title. Alright, let's see here. Let's just start with the reports here. Ooh, look at that. Rolling down to -1 budget now instead of -3. That's already fantastic. Oh, perfect. Cool, yeah. So the pipeline construction is all done, so not paying for that anymore. Nice. It was -3, but we only lost 2 budget too, which is even better. Fantastic. And our energy per churn dropped quite a bit, though. It's interesting. It was at 13, now it's down to 7. Huh, interesting. But we're also maxed out on how much energy we can get anyway, so it doesn't matter. And we're not gaining any authority per churn. That's not good. Interesting. Alright. Well, just have to keep an eye on things and see what happens. Alright, anyway. Let's see, let's check out these reports. Looks like there's 2 of them. So, from Port Jazan, mild drop in tax revenue. National income tax revenues dipped slightly, according to the data from the National Statistics Office in the capital. Slowdown is linked to reduced consumer activity and underperformance in certain industries. Makes sense. And from the Public of Morela, more gas connects Rizia and Morela. As part of ever-growing trade relations between the two countries, the newly constructed Morgas pipeline opens between Port Jazan and Cavet. In an opening ceremony held in the border town of Point Dart, officials from both countries shook hands and celebrated the momentous occasion. Fantastic. Alright. We got 3 news articles. Let's check them out. So let's see, there's 2 from the Royal Herald here. The first up, The Power of Rizia exhibition. Art or propaganda? The recently unveiled photography exhibition, The Power of Rizia, has stirred debate among art enthusiasts and critics alike. While the artist, a contractor stationed near one of the kingdom's key power plants, claims to celebrate the resilience of the nation's workers, many see the collection as thinly veiled propaganda. The exhibition fixates on the grit and machinery of power generation rather than the workers themselves. This raises questions about the photographer's true intentions and the value behind this artistic endeavor. Interesting. And chaos reigns on streets of Iza. The city of Iza continues to be a hotbed of violence, with daily outbreaks of violence primarily instigated by unruly elements among students and migrant workers. These clashes, often targeting the nationalist group Su Omina, have created a climate of unrest and fear among the city's law-abiding citizens. A significant contributor is the local police force, which finds itself stretched thin in the face of escalating confrontations. The police, despite their best efforts, are struggling to maintain order as they face an unprecedented level of defiance and aggression from certain segments of the population. Meanwhile, Su Omina, known for its patriotic stance and commitment to the city's well-being, has been unfairly targeted by those who seek to sow discord and undermine Iza's stability. We call upon city authorities and the national government to take stronger action against these elements that threaten the fabric of our society. Interesting. Alright. Guess we're going to have to step up and know a little bit more about that here soon. And from Geopolitico, Valen deploying special forces to Vernon. President Smolak has announced that the city of Vernon has been put under curfew along with 7 other towns in the northeast of the country. The Vezek army has deployed specially trained military forces in the area, I'm guessing, to combat the militant organization known as the Brutish Freedom Front. Valen has increased its efforts in fighting terrorism, with aerial campaigns and ground operations targeting BFF militants and their hidden bases. This operation will surely have consequences for the region, particularly for the neighboring countries of Lesbia, Rumberg, and particularly Sorlin, which has a large population of Brutish people living inside its borders. Interesting, okay. Let's see, we have things in Iza and Dirtia. Let's just see what's up. Okay, so this one's just asking if we want to enter diplomatic talks with Dirtia. Let's see, Supreme Wiseman Yorga Osmo of Dirtia has indicated that he's open to the possibility of a diplomatic visit from Rizia. At the Silver Garrison above Nail, we would have the opportunity to discuss and potentially improve relations between our two nations. He requests that we be accompanied by our king's most important Risa's figure, Grand Wiseman Sal Ignatius. Yeah, let's go ahead and visit. That seems fine to me. Alright, apparently that... What? This is increased authority and decreased budget. Okay. Interesting. That has to have been whatever happened in between churns and it's just now popped for whatever reason. Alright. And back to Iza. Su Omina undermines civil enforcement. Su Omina's presence in policing operations has grown more visible. They assist with arrests, issue warnings, and conduct patrols under their own banners. While some praise their discipline, others report intimidation and overreach. Local forces increasingly defer to members rather than coordinate with them. Negative authority per churn. I guess I'll go with that one. Okay, and that explains part of the drop here. Oh yeah, right there. -2 per churn from Su Omina destabilization. Cool. That makes sense. Alright. Let's see. No new reports or newspapers. Let's see what we got. So, Portrazon, we have a House of Delegates visit and Rusty demanding more shares. And in Monkeys, Crown budget strained by imports. Alright, well, let's just start with that. Finance officials have noted a growing imbalance in trade expenditure. More Crown funds are being allocated to procure key materials and goods from outside the country. Domestic production isn't meeting demand, and the gap is beginning to reflect in Treasury reports. Okay, so I guess we need to increase our local production then. That's what I wanted to do anyway, but we need money first. Alright, so back to Portrazon. Let's meet with Rusty first. Let's see. After acquiring 5% of Rizian oil and gas, Rusty Montoro returns with demands for a larger stake. Offering promises of economic growth, he seeks to expand his influence over one of the kingdom's most vital resources. Granting him more shares could bolster the budget, but at the cost of state control over energy. I think we're doing okay on energy, so I think I'm just going to sell him another 5%. We can use that extra little bit of money. There we go. Oh, it's -1 energy per churn. It didn't mention that part. Okay, well, whatever, that's okay. And that just gives us a one-time One-time budget boost, but that's alright. Alright, then one newspaper article about that. Strategic sale secures fiscal stability. In a demonstration of economic foresight, the Crown has authorized the sale of an additional 5% of Rizia oil and gas to esteemed investor Rosella Montoro. The move bolsters the national budget, ensuring key initiatives continue unhindered by financial strain. ROG, a cornerstone of our energy independence, remains under majority public control, but Montoro's deep expertise and investment network promise to accelerate the company's global ambitions. Officials close to the deal affirm it is a strategic partnership, aligning prosperity with national interest. Well, hopefully that'll pan off, because it sounds like he's going to help us make more money off that. Theoretically, I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, let's head to the House of Delegates here. Once more, I took my seat next to Hugo in the middle of the House of Delegates. My uncle watched with agitation as the representatives began filing into the room.
Your first visit to the House of Delegates since the RPP took over as majority party. I hope they behave themselves in front of their king.
Their movement is undeniable now. Perhaps we should start listening to them.
Throw them a scrap or two, but we can't let them have the whole roast.
A gavel banged. Manu Sazon, positioned behind the House Speaker podium, carefully put the wooden mallet aside. As the majority Speaker of the House of Delegates, I hereby call this session to order. He bowed in my direction. Thank you for coming, Your Majesty. Daria forced a smile from behind the opposition podium. Yes, on behalf of both of our parties, your presence is much appreciated. She nodded at Manus, who flipped open a binder. The first item on our agenda is an update on Zeal. My constituents, especially those in Brainus, are eagerly awaiting the end of the Zeal Agreement's 3-year probationary period and the return of our land. Thankfully, the trade deal seems to be proceeding as planned. Daria put up a hand. If and when the territory is finally returned, there are questions about how it will be reincorporated to Rizia. What question, Mr. Rava? Zeal has always been part of the province of Brainus. That may be true, but in the interest of stability, reincorporating it under Rizia Imperi's jurisdiction is the obvious choice. It is the same reason why the Palais Administrative District has not yet rejoined Cades Monteclar. That decision was due to ongoing border difficulties, as we have experienced extremely recently. Zeal faces no such danger. How can you say that after the Friendship Day incident? There's no telling what Valen would do, even if Zeal is returned without a fight. At this stage, Valen will not want to risk damaging our agreements, and if they do, my province can handle it. The volume in the room grew louder as the delegates began arguing among themselves. I turned to Hugo. I have to give Zeal back to Brainus, don't I? The House Sazon would revolt if I didn't.
You have empowered the Sazons enough without granting them more territory. I beg of you to be careful.
Eventually, Manus motioned for order. The delegates quieted down. Moving on to more pressing topics. Next on the agenda is a discussion regarding the current religious climate in Rizia. I must mention the growing pressure from brutish and dirty communities to lift our so-called blasphemy law. They point to it as evidence that the Crown discriminates against Golkandism. Lifting the blasphemy law has long been on my agenda. I'll make it my priority. Granting all citizens an equal right to worship would be a great step forward for freedom in Rizia. On the other hand, I understand public concerns about legitimizing what some see as an extremist sect. There are those who worry that if Rizia grants more rights to Golkandists, the kingdom will fall victim to the same ideologies as Dirtia. Even if the blasphemy law is revoked, Rizia will never turn into Dirtia. Yes, I also believe these fears are unfounded. The benefits of revoking the law outweighs the drawbacks. Finally, it is imperative that we discuss the growing radicalism among the populace. Talk of a workers' movement has begun to percolate, undoubtedly aided by propaganda from Vogsland and Unite Cantana. My constituents have informed me of covert gatherings where revolution is discussed. The recent Millennialist Union strike was only the beginning. I applaud His Majesty's efforts to address inequality in Rizian society, but obviously we still have some ways to go. Objection! You're suggesting our government appease an extremist fringe movement that does not represent the majority. Protests or no protests, reducing inequality in Rizian society is a worthy goal. Inequality exists, yes, but we can address without giving in to demands of a radical minority. If anything, we should be doing more to empower the landowners and employers to keep our kingdom's heart beating. They have already begun to lose faith in the crown in the wake of certain royal decrees. It would behoove us not to offend them any further. Please, Mr. Brava. The living standards among the lower classes are worse than ever. Foreigners still do not have access to basic services. We cannot forget that we serve the people of Rizia. To lose their allegiance is to lose hope. My party, which I will remind you is the majority, has already suggested a number of proposals that might benefit ordinary citizens and the crown alike. It is my hope that His Majesty reviews them. I'll have a look, but I am wary of granting the public too many favors. Be kind to them, and they'll support the crown in return. Manus closed the binder and looked up. That concludes today's session. Unless, of course, His Majesty had any closing remarks. No, I do not. This is your space, not mine. Manus nodded gratefully. Then until next time, ladies and gentlemen. Glorious Axa Rizia. I repeated the phrase along with Hugo and the other delegates. My uncle and I remained seated as the session adjourned. Any thoughts on today's session, Your Grace?
The Caesar boy is getting overconfident since his election win. I would be careful of how much he capitulate to his party.
He kept his eyes on the delegates as they left the hall.
Having said that, I do trust his assessment of the public's opinion. It is consistent with what I've been hearing.
He picked up his attaché case and paused to look at me.
It's been a while since the two of us caught up. I hope you'll do me the honor of paying me a private visit once you're back from your trip to Derria.
The honor will be all mine, Your Grace. Hugo rose and bowed.
Until then, Your Majesty.
I stayed in my seat until the room was completely empty. Was Manus right? Was the public unhappy with my reign? And if he was, where would I go from here? Interesting. Okay. Well, let's see. Looks like we got another newspaper article. From the Royal Herald. Prisoner's death, a cautionary tale. Interesting. Okay. A 33-year-old man was found beaten to death in his cell in Monkey's prison this week. The deceased was identified as Mateus Montalvo, a courier for the Cantuavo vineyards. Montalvo had recently been dismissed from his job and subsequently jailed after engaging in suspected homosexual activity with a client. This unfortunate incident highlights the strict moral codes Rizia upholds and serves as a grim reminder of the consequences of straying from societal norms. This tragedy, though sorrowful, reaffirms the necessity for all civilians to live by the principles that have long protected and guided our great nation. That's kind of a messed up take to get from that. Alright. Let's see here. So I guess let's head to Salabe to deal with a local protest over living standards. A large protest has erupted in the working-class district of Salabe, with demonstrators demanding improvements to the country's declining living standards. The protests are calling for higher wages, better access to housing, and improved healthcare, citing widespread poverty and growing inequality as the main drivers of their frustration. The protest, which has drawn a mix of laborers, families, and local activists, remains peaceful, but is growing rapidly in size. Boy, okay. I'm just gonna allow it, because I don't really want to break it up by force. Alright. And I guess let's head to Zeal for funding resistance in Zeal territory. Okay. There's an option to intensify funding for local resistance movements against the Vesic administration in the contested Zeal territory. This maneuver aims to escalate diplomatic leverage, exerting pressure for the reintegration of Zeal into Rizian sovereignty. While increased support for the resistance could significantly sway the Vesic government's stance, it also risks destabilizing the region, potentially justifying Valen's claim to retain Zeal for national security reasons. I'm going to agree with that last part, and we're not going to throw any money at them. Ignoring the fact that it's also all of our money at the moment. Alright. Actually, hold up. Looks like we have another news article here. From Geopolitico, United Quintana's Congress addresses State of the Union and revolutionary expansion. United Quintana recently hosted a massive Congress, bringing together representatives from all states to address the State of the Union and discuss a significant political decision concerning this concept of permanent revolution. The Congress, held in the Federation's capital, featured the unique traditions and customs of various states, including Quintana, Kyal, Kaidu, Zolotek, Auzatl, Yerzastan, Silvaria, Chimaltenango, and Quinalta. Jeez, why are these names so hard to pronounce? Participants expressed pride in their heritage while demonstrating a strong sense of unity under the governance of the Communist Party, led by Chairman Leon Maleniev Chavatangaquinua. During the Congress, Chairman Maleniev proposed revolutionary destiny doctrine, a policy aimed at promoting the idea of permanent revolution and supporting social revolutions in nearby states with early-stage capitalism. Senators from each state participated in a vote to determine the future course of the nation, ultimately passing the doctrine as signaling a new era of interventional involvement for United Quintana. Interesting, okay. Alright, now let's hit Portrazon for a request for provincial tax subsidies, okay. Let's see, provincial leaders are calling for tax subsidies to support local economies, each arguing for their region's case. Volunteers claims agricultural hardships, Curtis Montclair points to industrial stagnation, and Brainus highlights rising unemployment. -2 budget, -1 budget per churn. I can't afford that. So we're not going to grant any. Unfortunate, but that's okay. We have a report on the subsidies. Provinces left waiting as subsidies denied. Provincial representatives returned from the capital empty-handed after the Crown declined all subsidy requests. Officials in Valenquieres, Curtis Montclair, and Brainus petitioned for support, citing agricultural hardship, industrial stagnation, and unemployment. While no public protests have been recorded, local councils are urging residents to prepare for tightened budgets and slower recovery. Yeah, we gotta get our federal budget under control first. Or national, I guess, whatever. Alright, let's see. So we've got Grace and Dirtiest. Let's head to Grace first. Alright, deepening involvement in Vendanasam's civil war. Fantastic, okay. As Vendanasam's civil war intensifies, the monarchist forces under Prince Consort Kaboan Sangtam launch a major offensive against key strategic cities held by the revolutionary factions. Battles in the industrial heartland of Ragkara, the port city of Penguvi, and the fortified positions in Tamarin have reached a critical stage. With the conflict's outcome hinging on these decisive confrontations, Vendanasam's request for Rizian support comes at a time when intervention could significantly alter the war's trajectory. Let's see. Can I look at my... No, I can't. Okay. Let's just go and send a tank division. Why not? I think we have 1 or 2 of those. Right, where are our tanks? We had 1, yeah. Alright, we're definitely gonna have to try to boost our military at some point here soon too, but that's okay. Alright, apparently there's a protest at Monkeys. Anti-intervention protests at Monkeys Harbor. A group of anti-war activists attempted to block the ships carrying military aid for Vendanasam from leaving the port. Their attempt was unsuccessful, with law enforcement swiftly arresting the troublemakers. Cool. Alright. Let's see, then we've got 2 more news articles. From the Royal Herald, King stepping up military assistance to besieged monarchy. King Romus has announced additional aid to our allies in Vendanasam as the Prince Consort valiantly attempts to ward off a revolution against his rule. Not only is this a chance to demonstrate Rizia's military prowess to the other countries of the world, it also provides vital experience for our own conflicts. Alright, and from Geopolitico, Vendanasam's civil war escalates. Rizia to send additional troops. Monarchist forces under Prince Consort Kabo and Sangtam have launched a major counteroffensive against revolutionary forces, aiming to recapture key cities in the country's heartland. Fierce battles are raging in cities like Rakara, Penguvi, and Tamarin, with the Watchtower of Human Rights voicing concern about mounting civilian casualties as a result of intensifying urban warfare. The Kingdom of Rizia has already announced additional support from the Vendanasam regime, dispatching an additional military division to the country to aid in fighting. Other vital allies of the Prince Consort within Grace are reportedly also considering stepping up support. Interesting. Alright. Let's see here. So, looks like all that's left is our meeting with Supreme Wise Man Osmal. But we're getting fairly close to time, and I think this is probably going to be a long one. So, that feels like as good a place as any to go ahead and call it for today. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see y'all next time.